we are joined today by Carla McCabe, President and CEO of WVIA. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill that would reduce public media funding. How much does public media rely on the federal government for funding?
So $585 million per year is funded for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So there's actually a rescissions package. The White House had sent a rescissions package to Congress that would rescind previously appropriated funds. We were always 2 years, forward funded. So that would be $1.1 billion over the course of the 2 years. So we're at a really critical time right now, and that we are just waiting on word. The clock is ticking toward the July 18th deadline, and that will mean that we will know hopefully next week if it goes to the Senate, if there's going to be a vote or not. That's really a key time for stations like us.
Can you explain a little bit about the history between public media and the federal government?
Sure. So the federal government, when it comes to funding for Corporation for Public Broadcasting, it has been ongoing for many, many years. But for local stations, I always bring it back to the local level because about 70% of the funding from the federal government to CPB is then provided to stations like ours through community service grants. So that is a huge, lift for stations like ours, and it's something that is critical. Obviously, we exist because of those funds. A station like ours, we're a community licensee, which means the majority of our funding comes from the community. We're a membership-based organisation, so over 60% of our budget is actually through the community. So again, for us, this would be about $1.2 million, about 20% of our budget that would be cut. And again, it would be really crippling for a station like ours. And I can give you another example for our state in Pennsylvania. Stations in other parts of the state, for example, in Erie, about 40% of their budget is federally funded. So it's a really huge impact on stations like ours. But I think the key metric is that that's 70% that goes to local stations. There's a lot of noise about PBS National and NPR National. It's the local stations that are going to be the hardest hit. That is where the true impact is going to be felt.
For those who may not be familiar, can you describe the difference between your programming versus commercial broadcasting programming?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, we're publicly funded, obviously. Public broadcasting service is, we don't have ads or commercials run on our station, obviously. We do have support from underwriters, and that always has been the way. So we're very cautious when it comes to promotion and the underwriting spots. So when it comes to commercial, you will see a lot of, for example, on websites or on the television, you'll see a lot of ads that will push the boundaries a little bit. And with public media, we do not do that. We don't promote per se. So it's always, we don't have breaks. I compare it a little bit to BBC at Home. And it is that we don't have those breaks or interruptions. I'm very proud of the work that we do, and the website's is exactly how it should look. We're not getting inundated with ads. It's all about the content, and that's key for us.
Do you use the federal money that you receive and target that to specific aspects of your network at all?
So what we do, the 1.2 for our budget, for WVIA's budget, really is utilised for PBS and NPR. So for us to be an affiliate of both of those, we then pay our dues to both PBS and NPR. So that's mostly what those funds are used for. And that's where the threat is right now at the national level.
How would you compensate for the missing funding if this bill should pass the Senate?
It's not just a matter of plugging a hole, unfortunately. So yes, it might be 20% of the budget. However, we may be able to make up some of that shortfall. My concern is the infrastructure that surrounds that also. When it comes to public broadcasting service, for example, and for NPR, we rely so heavily on them for other work and the infrastructure, as I mentioned. So it's not just a matter of trying to regain those funds and bring that in. It's the entire system that there's going to be a domino effect. So it's going to be catastrophic for our system. And again, the local stations are the ones that are going to be hit hardest, especially rural stations, might I add.
Has public broadcasting ever experienced a threat of funding cuts like this before?
Yes, in that it has happened before, but not to this level. And I think we have certainly learned from it over the years, and we never take it for granted as individual stations or as a national network. But it has never got to this level. So there's a lot of fear in the system. I think sometimes with a crisis, there's a lot of creativity and perspective. However, it's a really crucial time for us. The biggest thing that we're doing right now is just asking everyone to contact their senators. Obviously, the clock's ticking, as I mentioned, so it's really, we've got until next week. And we're hopeful that the outcome will be good, but we are genuinely concerned, obviously.
Lastly, if this bill is passed by the Senate, how soon would it take into effect?
It would be immediate for us. So as I mentioned, it's 2 years forward funding. We always had that security blanket in that we knew that we had those 2 years. We just renewed our fiscal year started July 1. So we're going to be pretty much this year. We'll feel the effects. And the big thing for us, again, I'm just going to mention as well, we've made a huge investment in local news and journalism here at WVIA. We cover 22 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. A lot of those counties are very rural. So with the news component and the sale of the newspaper, for example, locally, we have really been filling a void that is much needed. That's what really concerns me is who will do these, who will do this if it's not going to be us? Where is this news going to come from? So it's going to be a huge impact for us, as well as the education component, obviously, too.
Carla McCabe, President and CEO of WVIA, thank you for your time.
Thank you.